Under Pete Hegseth's leadership, we could see an unprecedented change to who is honored by our nation's military. Navy leadership is reportedly working to rename a new aircraft carrier that's under construction. And instead of honoring a heroic sailor, as was planned, they would name it instead for President Trump.
Okay. Is there anything more indicative of this administration that they want to strip a black war hero's name from an aircraft carrier and replace it with Captain Bone Spurs himself? Numerous sources have confirmed that the Trump administration is considering perhaps the most Donald Trump idea imaginable, taking the name of an actual American war hero off of an aircraft carrier that it was supposed to be put on and potentially replacing it with none other than Donald Trump.
CNN has exclusive new reporting, and sources tell us the Navy is considering a new name for an aircraft carrier that it's building, potentially President Trump's name. But wait, because there's more. Because that carrier already had a name. It was slated to honor this man, Doris Miller, a black sailor who fearlessly jumped into action during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. I'm talking about a war hero. Miller was a mess attendant, third class in rank. It was one of the only jobs in the Navy that was open to black men. The day of the attack, December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, he had just finished serving breakfast and was gathering laundry when the explosions started. Well, Miller aided his wounding commanding officer. He took control of an anti-aircraft gun without any training. His story was so powerful that Hollywood put it on the big screen in the movie Pearl Harbor.
The sailor currently being honored is Doris Miller. If you don't know his story, then you really should, because it makes this proposal almost grotesquely symbolic. On December 7, 1941, Miller was serving aboard the USS West Virginia at Pearl Harbor. He was a mess attendant when the attack happened, and he sprung to action, carrying wounded sailors to safety. He helped move the ship's mortally wounded captain. Then he found himself near a .50 caliber anti-aircraft machine gun, and despite never being trained to use it, he opened fire on attacking Japanese aircraft while under fire himself. And while Pearl Harbor burned around him, he showed immense bravery. He became the first black American sailor awarded the Navy Cross, the Navy's second highest decoration for valor in combat. But he didn't just spend the rest of his life after that resting on his heroics. He actually went back to war in November of 1943. He was serving aboard the escort carrier USS Liscome Bay when a Japanese submarine torpedoed the ship. The carrier exploded and sank, and more than 600 sailors died. Doris Miller died with them. He was just 24 years old.
I'm joined now by Doris Miller's great nephew, Thomas Bledsoe. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. I know you and the rest of the family were not notified about this. So tell me, how did you react when you first heard that the future USS Doris Miller might be renamed and potentially after President Trump?
So for our family, it was quite a shock to hear that there was conversation about the possibility of renaming the Doris Miller carrier. Mm-hmm. And so not only was it a shock, but it was also a shock that we found out from a news outlet, comparably from the Navy. And so it caused a lot of concerns and uncertainty. And so for us, it immediately became a family group conversation about what is happening, what does it mean, because in January 2020 was a big day for us when we went to the naming ceremony and got the opportunity to see what was happening, and then to see Doris Miller get recognition in such a great way as we continue to fight for him to get recognition for the Congressional Medal of Honor as well.
In January of 2020, during Donald Trump's first administration, the Navy announced that an aircraft carrier would be named the USS Doris Miller. It would be the first aircraft carrier named for an enlisted sailor and the first named for a black American. The announcement came on a notable day during Martin Luther King Day, and 6 years later, Trump's second administration is now reportedly considering undoing that. ABC News reports that Navy officials have been discussing removing Miller's name from the carrier. Three sources familiar with the matter say that the discussions have been going on for pretty much all of the summer. And two of the sources say the possibility has been raised of giving the carrier a different name, Donald Trump. Now, if it is to be true, as disturbing as all of this is, it would also be unprecedented if that happened. No American aircraft carrier has ever been named after a sitting president. And if you want a single image illustrating this administration's relationship with military service, this may be it. Honoring Donald Trump, a man who did not serve, a man who received 4 student deferments during college, and then after graduating in 1968 received a medical classification that disqualified him from the military draft. And now his administration is considering whether the war hero that we just discussed should lose one of the most visible military honors in America so that the current president can receive it instead.
One of the things that CNN was reporting on earlier today, that the Trump regime is considering renaming the USS Doris Miller, which is an aircraft carrier that honors a black sailor who celebrated for his heroism at Pearl Harbor. They're considering renaming it after Donald Trump. And that's a real story in the mix of a lot of stories that's happened today and this week, right? And so this is a real thing. They don't know who they may rename it after, but they want to take this ship that's named after this historic black sailor. They want to rename it after somebody, and Donald Trump's name is in contention, is basically what the story says. And this, we're dealing with like sick people. This is sick stuff.
Now, listen, it would be questionable enough if this existed in isolation, but it doesn't, because it's pretty well known that Pete Hegseth has spent his time in his position conducting an aggressive campaign against what it describes as DEI inside the military. Hegseth's argument is that race and gender should never influence any decisions or promotions inside the military. And in March, Hegseth personally intervened in an army promotion list for officers selected to become one-star general, a move that sparked a response from military leaders in regards to how unusual it was. And according to reports confirmed by NPR and military publications, Hegseth blocked 4 army officers, 2 of them black men and 2 were women. Officials described that degree of secretary-level intervention in the routine promotion process is unusual.
So as we reestablish deterrence, because Obama and Biden wouldn't, we also rebuild our military. And at the same time, we're restoring the warrior ethos inside our department, because that matters. We need guys like this man right here having our back in Congress as we get rid of DEI at the Defense Department. At the Department of War, we do training, not trannies. It is a day and night difference. Training, lethality, accountability, discipline, readiness, the bedrock of what it means to be an American warrior is the only focus of our department. Colorblind, gender neutral, merit-based. That's it. We want the best.
But it happened again, this time in the Navy. Hegseth intervened in another promotion slate and removed at least 7 officers who had already been selected through the Navy's normal process. And among those removed were a majority black officers and women. The resulting group of 22 nominees for one-star admiral contained no women and only 2 non-white officers. So while the Pentagon, of course, denies that there's anything else at play here, many close to the situation are asking the obvious questions here. Hegseth has made it no secret. He spent years attacking what he viewed as diversity-driven military leadership. He argued that the armed forces has become obsessed with racial and gender, quote, firsts, and said that diversity was not our strength. And in a speech to senior officers, he complained that military leaders had been promoted for what he described as the wrong reasons, citing again DEI, including race, gender quotas, and historical firsts. So when you put all of this together, the Doris Miller story doesn't arrive in an empty room, and that's why many have called to attention that something larger seems to be at play here.
Hey, if you want the full story, how democracy got here and how we take it back, pre-order our new book, WTF America, today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.